What is therapy, and what are the barriers to it being successful? Only having 2.5 years of education before university, in my adulthood, I've become obsessed with learning pretty much anything I can from any field of thought. And so in my work, I draw from philosophy, from uh, neuroscience, biology, anthropology, sociology, uh, time spent abroad, understanding multiple cultures and cultural constructs, the social construct of the mind, and so on. And so for me, therapy is about supporting others in their own journey. As it's been for myself. It's a constant journey to understand who and what we are as human beings. Who am I as an individual? Where do I fit in? Where do we fit in society? In the relationships that we have, and so on. So therapy is a support for processing painful, debilitating, or stuck emotions. It's assistance in de-escalating relational conflict cycles and in learning more effective communication strategies. It's a place to process existential stress that arises from lack of identity, purpose, loneliness, or concerns about mortality. It's the facilitation of healing from trauma, neglect, or grief. And so what are the barriers? Stigma. Therapy is only, we've come a long way since the days of William James and Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung began to shed light on mental health and the struggles around it. But there still pervades a belief that therapy is only for weak or crazy people. Dogmatic beliefs that prevent us from considering new perspectives or possibilities. As the Greek philosopher Epictetus said, it's impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows. Another barrier to effective therapy or successful therapy is insufficient motivation to change. Change is hard, and many of us come into therapy with the magical thinking that a therapist can, quote, fix everything. There's this belief, particularly in the US, but on some level it's a global phenomenon. We have a happiness problem. We have this fantastical belief that life should be without pain. That when we have painful sensation or painful circumstances, that something's wrong, and that we need a drug, or we need to change something, or we need new relationships, or we need something else that's going to fix the pain. And the reality is that therapy is often a place where we come to accept and grieve that which we cannot change. It's a place where we come to recognize that life is a balance of pain and joy, of negative feelings and positive feelings, and normalizing that those negative experiences are necessarily a part of life. Across and throughout life, there's a tension between knowing how and when to take action to change that which we can, and knowing when to accept and grieve that which we cannot. Another barrier to successful therapy is ineffective support. Therapy is not a place for advice or shameful labels. I oftentimes tell clients that I struggle a great deal with the DSM. Of course, I'm licensed to diagnose, but I am repelled by the idea that every diagnosis, practically every diagnosis, has to include the term disorder, as though there's something disorderly about the experience of depression or anxiety or stress or panic or any of those things. These are natural experiences, they're natural aspects of life. And so for me, of course, diagnosis can be useful and helpful. Medication also can be useful and helpful. But for me, therapy is more about a place to explore and come to better understand ourselves, to find answers to our greatest questions within the wealth of our own experience. It's a place to come to terms with reality as it is, and learn to engage with it authentically, without trying to change it, unless there's something that we can change. Of course, unnecessary suffering, certainly we should try to change that. In my own rule of thumb, in terms of finding a good therapist or finding an effective therapist, is one of the greatest challenges that many of us face whenever we begin to look for some support. And my own rule of thumb has become to, if I don't know in my gut, when I'm looking for a therapist for myself, if I don't know in my gut by the end of the first or at most second session that this is helpful, then it's not. And to keep looking. And so I encourage clients to do the same, to trust their gut. We know when something is helpful. As I say in my Psychology Today profile, we oftentimes misunderstand that emotions, negative emotions, we oftentimes misunderstand them. They ultimately are signposts for unmet needs in life, and they shift to positive or disappear. They evaporate whenever those needs that underlie the feelings are met. And so I wish you the best of luck and success in your own growth journey.